Talofa. Salutations. Greetings, Dorman listeners. We are back with a brand new episode. A lot quicker turnover this week, might I add. We are your Dorman Podcast.
Official.
Episode number, God knows what.
49.
Well, on YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube. 49, right?
Episode 600.
We are your Dorman. I am Evangelist, and with me, as always,
Steven, world champion holder in the building.
I'll give it to you, man. Your team within the last 6, 7, 5.
Well, 7 years we won the AFC West in a row.
7.
2020.
How long have you got? So that's how long he's been your quarterback.
We won with Alex Smith.
Okay.
3 times, and Patrick Mahomes 4.
Well, you've 7 years. It's been a good run of luck.
Luck.
I think that's it. I think it's a wrap, guys.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's time.
Coming from a Panthers fan, and now a Chargers.
Now Chargers, man. You know what? We're going to put our past behind us, man. 22 years wasted with those Panthers.
But also, being a Panthers fan and a Chargers fan, aren't you used to putting your past behind you? Because you have to every year. End of the year, right?
Season.
It's like I tell the Raider fans that I bump into that you should change your name from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Las Vegas wait till next year's.
Wait till next season.
Because every Raider fan's hyped.
At beginning of every season.
Super Bowl.
It's going down.
Super Bowl.
Hey, first couple of wins, you're like, yeah, we're headed to the bowl.
Yeah, they win 2 games and then they go 2-16.
Hey, you know what? I'm not gonna talk no shit. I don't have any no championship teams to report you. No Super Bowl winners.
Wait a minute. So both your teams that you're back have never won the Super Bowl.
Never won the Super Bowl. Hey guys, on to the subject of the day. All right. So as I've said, a few days ago we released an episode, and then here we go, a couple days later, 2, 3 days later.
Yes.
Back at it like crack addicts.
Yep.
And then we said that we would cover a couple of questions.
Yes.
That our audience asked, and you know what?
If there was interaction.
There was interaction.
And our fans came through. Thanks,
A few of our listeners were kind enough.
Big Lou.
Right? Big Lou. Hey, even Uncle Rich, man. Uncle Rich. Man, love it. Appreciate you. But yeah, we decided to come back and address questions that we got. So we're men of our words.
Yep.
Dorman. So we're coming at you with exactly that. We're addressing the questions. But before we do, right, we should be responsible podcasters, responsible YouTubers, and say like, subscribe, share,
and
right?
put the bell on for the notifications, because then you won't know when we're on.
Right about now we're begging, right? No, we're not begging.
No, this is what you do.
We're not begging. Okay, that's what we're supposed to do.
This is in the YouTubers playbook.
Right. It's
if you like
protocol.
the content, subscribe.
Right. It's protocol.
If you like it, share it, and if you don't,
and we've never been ones to follow any protocol. But I feel like we're doing this long enough.
Yeah.
I guess we're developing expectations.
And clearly our way wasn't working.
Clearly we didn't give a shit. And giving a shit didn't do anything for us.
Right.
So now we have to revert to
following rules.
Follow rules.
Yep.
Follow protocols. So we are asking you, our listeners, our fantastic viewers.
107 subscribers.
107 subscribers.
893 away from payday.
Ooh. Well, anyway, so yeah, we got a couple of questions asked to us.
Good questions.
Yeah. Pretty fantastic questions, I would say. Right. So we're gonna start with our first one.
So this question was brought up to us by a woman of superior intelligence.
Very high intelligence.
I mean, probably responsible for one of the greatest people on the face of the planet.
She's a great person of high intelligence.
Yes.
I'll stop it.
And also responsible for, again, as I said, gracing the world with one of the,
She's blessed us with adornment.
with one of this time's probably one of the most prolific minds in the history of the world.
You know what? She's graced us with. She's blessed us with a person who
Is humble.
who has zero shortage of confidence. There's no shortage of confidence in this individual that she has blessed us with.
And so this question is brought to you by my mother. And so her question is, which is more important, beauty, power, or money, and then why?
Beauty, power, or money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beauty, power, or money. I think all of them have an importance in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
They contain an importance, right? So there is it. I wouldn't say money by itself is most important, but it has an importance. I wouldn't say beauty is most important, or like I wouldn't say it's like it should be considered high on, highest on the priority list, but it has an importance, right? There's industries behind this,
Right.
Power, I wouldn't say it's most important, but again, all of these things.
It's all relative, right? What you're talking about.
All of these things are relatively important, absolutely, right? I mean, there's people who dedicate their lives to each of these things individually, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, let's say the grab for power. Let's address power first and foremost, right?
Okay.
So the grab for power is especially today. We can see it today. The grab for power has a dedication to it, meaning people commit so much of themselves to it. They commit so much of their behaviors. They commit so much of their, I would say people strategize, right? In meeting people, in being introduced to a new circle of, in an organization, whether it be a job, whether it be a social organization, whether it be any group of people, they strategize themselves to it. They place themselves, they look to present themselves in a way that would allow a certain amount of power. Maybe not the most powerful person in the group or within the group, but they look to maintain some form of power within that group.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in that way, there is an importance to obtaining power or acting in a way that allows you some form of power. You don't want to be the most vulnerable person,
Right.
right? Some people look to fly under the radar, but even in that flying under the radar, they don't want to place themselves in a position where they can be taken advantage of.
Right.
Right. So even in that, there's a manipulation towards a power. Right.
Well, I think with power, it's again, as I said, it's relative as to what you're talking about, right? Like if we're running for president, obviously, you're not running for president for the financial gain,
right?
Unless you're already corrupted in the pockets of all the lobbyists, which is, fair to assume that they already are. But you try to be the leader of the most powerful country, or one of the most powerful countries in the world, and that's, I think a lot of people, that's where the phrase power hungry comes from. You want to be in charge of such a large entity that just by default you're considered to be a powerful individual. So I think, as I said, all relative for what you're speaking of on those three different types, but I'd say on my personal level, I would say power is probably number one.
Oh, of the three.
Of the three.
Okay. All right. I mean,
not that I want to be powerful. I'm just saying in those three general questions of which is more important, I would say out of those three, in my opinion, power would be probably the most important.
so say let's say power is the end goal, right? Having the most amount of money allows you that power. So if you made money, if you put money of most importance, that power is automatic. And in your money being of most importance, money and power is given to you.
Well, the power is automatic only based on assumption, right? You could be the most powerful person involved of underwater basket weaving. Doesn't make you the most powerful guy,
Sure.
right? So when you want to become powerful, the money follows, right?
Okay.
And then also, when you're powerful, the beauty follows the money. So it's all in my world.
Well, if you, okay, let's say someone with an immense amount of beauty and an intense level of beauty, right? Meaning the person is outwardly attractive, but then has some inward beauty. If that person looked to obtain power would be, they would have a certain level of power, right? So if beauty was the number one goal, if beauty was put in most importance, power would come. Agree or no? And then with that beauty, money would come as well,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all of these.
You could look at it from any angle, right? They could all lead to one or the other.
Yeah.
Beauty could lead to money.
Yeah.
Power lead to money. Money lead to power. Money lead to beauty. Beauty lead to money. Blah blah blah.
But power wouldn't necessarily mean that you're beautiful,
Right.
right? But beauty could allow you to obtain money and power. So if beauty was of most importance,
So
you could say,
Hugh Hefner was not beautiful.
right,
He had power and the money,
right.
and he was
What I'm saying is,
indirectly attached to.
what I'm
all
saying
this
is, we're
beauty.
looking at what's most important,
Right.
So of course, power. If power was your main goal, your main priority, power would allow you to be surrounded by money and beauty,
Right.
right? But you yourself don't necessarily become the most the most monetary rich person or beautiful person.
Right. But also by
But a
default.
person who is beautiful,
Mhm.
that would allow them money because there's ventures to be capitalized in or
Right.
capitalized on with that beauty,
Mhm.
and power could, right, with that beauty, you could wield a bit of power.
Let me ask you this question. Let's say you have all the money in the world.
Right.
Does the beauty filter go up or down?
The beauty filter goes up, but does that necessarily mean you're beautiful? It just means you're more beautiful than you were.
But what? Right. So, which is why I would put beauty as the last of the most important, because it's so, like the definition of beauty is so, it's
Okay.
one-sided.
See, the reason why I want to interchange these things from a different perspective, right? We say beauty, if your beauty was your main goal and you were able to create, true beauty within yourself, meaning you were outwardly beautiful, and then you obtained some level of, spiritual inward beauty, right? And then, so if you made that your goal, you could capitalize, monetize it, and create riches from it, and obtain some type of power. So you can be making beauty your goal. You can obtain the money and the power. Making power your goal, right? You don't necessarily become beautiful.
Right.
You can obtain money, so you can have power and money, but beautiful you might not be,
Sure.
right? Money, if money is your goal, you can eventually gain some sort of power, but you won't necessarily be beautiful. So I'm kind of changing these, like interchanging them, right?
Right.
Because it's all a matter of what, right? What are these things? What are these? These are all basically tools. That's the point I'm really trying to push, right? If we could just
Well, they're add-ons to the human existence already.
Sure,
right?
but they're tools within this
Sure.
in this existence, right?
Yeah.
So whatever path we're on, we can use these three things to our advantage,
Mm.
right? But if beauty is, again, if beauty is obtained, money and power as well can be obtained through that beauty. So
Sure.
you can say, right, that beauty would be number one. Beauty is of utmost importance. You can say that, right? And then you say power, and then again, we're interchanging it, but I say that, I saw the question and I wanted to highlight the idea that all these three things are just simply tools. They're tools in this life that we as individuals can yield. Yield
Right.
to do what though? Yield to gain traction, yield to, wield, I'm sorry. Wield is the word I'm looking. These are tools that we could wield to gain traction amongst the populace,
Right.
right? To gain traction amongst, because that's the most important. So when you think about tools, you can replace those three with any other tools, but you have to. I think what's of most importance is people, right?
Sure.
People are of most importance. Your ability to genuinely, authentically gain their support, not likes, not approval, but their support,
Right.
right, is what it is of utmost importance,
Mhm.
right? So we can erase money, power, beauty. We could throw another three sets of tools there, and then keep replacing them. But the point in that question I wanted to truly highlight is people,
Right.
right? So all of those are important with people. Like we talk about individuals, right? Us being individuals, and then we talk about individuals within a collective. As an individual, if you were truly focused on this being an individual, money, power, beauty would be of little use.
Right.
Because you're such an individual, you can be an individual in the wilderness, and none of those things are going to help you out there in the wilderness.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
None of those things are going to provide you with nourishment, provide you with shelter in the wilderness, right? Because you're dealing with no one, you're out there with the wild,
Yeah.
right? But all of these things only have to do with the winning over the support of others.
Right. And these three things in particular are pretty shallow
Sure.
benchmarks, right?
Sure.
Because at any time you could lose all three,
Right.
right? And you are still who you are. So your character, like who you really are as a person, is what matters. I mean, you could be the biggest piece of shit ever and still be beautiful, right? You could be the
Sure.
biggest piece of shit ever and still have power.
Sure.
And you could be the biggest
Kim
piece of shit ever
Kardashian.
and still have money. All
Me.
three of those things directly apply to the Kardashians. But, at any time, I mean, she could fall off a ladder and break her face. She's no longer beautiful, right?
Well,
People could
probably
stop
won't.
buying her product and believe in all her bullshit. And there goes her power and her money.
I don't want to turn this into a rant against the Kardashians.
Well, it's so easy
it's
to,
just easy.
because
right?
those are again probably a group of some of the most shallow people you'll ever come across in your life.
Yeah, but you know what? They've gained again. We spoke last week on commonalities and moving towards a common or a collective achievement, right?
Right.
And they've been able to do that, right? With
Wow.
what's her name? Kris Jenner.
Mm-hmm.
With Kris Jenner at the helm, and
The madam that she is.
madam, and then pimping out her daughter. She was able to accomplish all of this
Right.
this Kardashian empire,
But the whole
right?
my whole point was at any time you could again lose all three, and it's your character that is at the base of everything you are, right?
Mhm.
whether you're a good person or a bad person. And it's all relative as to how you use your character to further better this fucking sideshow we're in as a world now.
I mean, it is, again, we can dwell on the idea that it's a sideshow, or we can dwell on our own individual treks, right?
It's hard to ignore, though.
It is, right? But, one thing that we'll talk about in the future, I definitely want to dedicate a podcast episode to it, but self-control, right? So once we develop this, self-control or just delve into it, we'll see how truly easy it would be to ignore all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, would we be doing any favors to mankind in ignoring it and just pushing the idea or the concepts of self-control out there? Who knows, right? And again, because it's all about gaining the support of the people around you. Right? Because all of your messages of progress and all of your messages of productivity or betterment, it does no good.
Narrative, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what.
But it does no good. All of all of our spoutings does zero good.
Right.
If we're not affecting anyone around us.
Right.
If we're not getting anyone to do better.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people point to the idea of love, right? Like, oh yeah, man, if we just promote love, then we're going to be doing a much better service to the people around us, right? But then this love can kind of be misconstrued and misplaced with these feel-good notions, right? Like, oh yeah, let's just promote this acceptance and tolerance of one another, and that's love, right? And then if ever someone shows themselves to be a detriment to themselves and then to the people around them, you putting them in their place or calling them on that is not love, right? That's not a promotion of love because it didn't feel good, right?
You have to be pretty arrogant to think you can go through this world and not have anybody disagree with you. I mean, that's an arrogant scumbag sense of entitlement.
Right, and then and in your pointing out these malpractices or missteps, that's in your mind it's love, right? But then the people around you, because they can't handle the reality of your reprimand or the reality of your suggestion, right? Oh, you're hateful. That's hate speech.
Well, they say they're offended.
Right. So like let's say I've always been an overweight kid, right? Mm-hmm. But I remember hearing, oh man, you're fat. I remember it hurting, like it causing a little bit of discomfort in me, like, oh damn, I know, man, he's clowning. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then in the reality of things, right? Overweight. I'm still overweight. I'm still considered obese for my size or for my height. Mm-hmm. So pointing that out to people, right? Oh, that's hate speech. Right. You even hear the idea that it's there's some type of racism behind it, right? Right. But the reality is that is the absolute truth. Right. I am considered obese. Obesity is dangerous. I need to be working toward, becoming smaller or becoming, losing weight. Although, thank God, I've taken a couple of, back-to-back years during my having physical blood work comes back healthy, right? Mm-hmm. Thank God. But it's always a great idea to be mindful of your weight, to be mindful of your food consumption, to be mindful of your exercise every day, right? So that's love, right? When someone is pointing that out and it causes you to go and take action, I consider that love.
Right.
But again, it's you know, it's subjective, I guess.
But you're also strong enough mentally to not know that it's even if some random stranger on the street walk by you and say you're fat, would it affect you?
No.
No.
Well, because
Right, because
I am.
well, and also too, I mean, you might be, but I mean, it's also that's somebody's opinion, right? And like Ricky Gervais has this clip where he says, that exact thing, like, how arrogant are you to walk around thinking nobody can disagree with you?
Yeah, I saw that clip.
So
Today, as a matter of fact.
right, and then he says, being offended is the equivalent of having a pain in your leg. Like it doesn't affect me at all. It's not my fault that your leg hurts.
Right.
And it's not my fault that you feel offended. Offense is nothing to be taken so seriously that you need to make a grand, presentation of how you're offended. And that's where we are now. Like, you could say anything and you're like, oh, I'm offended. And then if you say that, people are absolutely terrified that they're going to be sued or arrested or whatever. And it lessens the people who really do get offended at things. And if you throw everything against the wall.
Okay, I know we set out to answer the question of what's most important.
We did,
but again, it's all tied in,
right,
to this experience that we're having with others, right? It's this experience that we're having individually, right? Hopefully, meeting, setting goals, setting a destination, a purpose of our own, right? But again, with the consideration that there are others here with us, and with the consideration that the destiny could be reached, our own personal destinations could be expedited, probably with the participation of others. It could be enhanced. Our experience could be enhanced with the participation of others, and vice versa. We could be enhancing, and we can expedite the experiences of others. We got to take all of these things into consideration, right? And then, so again, this interaction with people is of utmost importance, because again, in this question, 3 tools were listed: beauty, power, money. And those are exactly what I stated. They are tools for the outreach up from yourself to other people.
right,
The interaction between people, the relationship between people. That's basically all it is. So I think when you understand the underlying purpose of the tools, you can answer that question for yourself. Anyone.
right, or replace them.
Yeah, or replace it.
If you don't think those 3 are of any importance, replace them with 3 characteristics, virtues that would apply to making your life better.
You know what's funny? like let's replace them really fast, right? So instead of power, let's replace it with peace of mind, right? Because peace of mind is also a tool, right? And it's probably a tool more important tool than power, money, or beauty. Peace of mind. Because if you have peace of mind, nothing matters, right? None of those things matter, right? But let's replace it with peace of mind, and then another tool, the ability to gain attention, right? I don't know what would be a phrase or a word to sum that ability to gain attention. Also, tools.
Attention by itself.
Attention.
Yeah.
Right. What's more important, attention or peace of mind? Right. You can replace it with those things and answer those questions for yourself. Right. Because what is it? What are both of those things? The underlying purpose of both of those things.
Right.
Tools. Right. Tools. Because your peace of mind. I want to say, people, especially the more you put yourself out there, if you just present yourself as a person with peace of mind, people gravitate towards you, putting yourself out there, right? And if you put yourself out there as a person with the ability to gain attention, people also gravitate towards you,
Right.
right? But in the end, you can answer, hey, which of these are going to be more important? You know what I mean? Again, you could replace all of those tools with other tools.
So this question that was asked of us has slowly turned into a tool that we can use personally to list what our top 3, what do you say, values?
Okay.
Top 3 values are, and then work on those 3, and then once you've conquered those 3, move on to another 3, right?
Sure.
So everything that listed here is a tool, but the question in itself is a tool of betterment for the others.
So, are you asking what 3 tools would we replace those things with? In the perfect world, I would list purpose being the number 1 tool, right? Because when you make purpose, right, meaning you find what you are best at, and drive toward allowing that to, or drive towards fulfilling a purpose with whatever it is you're best at. Purpose would be my utmost of most importance. And like I told you, peace of mind. Peace of mind is when you discover like a true peace of mind, there is nothing, truly nothing that could bother you, right? And almost to a fault, because when you put yourself in a world where people are looking at you or depending on you to like, let's say, react in a certain way, peace of mind may not necessarily be what people want to see, right? Because, like, let's say as a leader, right, a lot of times when people see an oncoming potential tragedy, they want to know that you're going to act with some type of urgency, right? But then if you've got this peace of mind and you understand what you personally have to do in order to cope with this upcoming tragedy or potential tragedy, then a lot of times that reaction, people aren't looking to see. People are looking to say, tell me what to do, right? They want that directive that would kind of, allow them to spring into action, motivate them to act, right? So, but peace of mind. So, purpose, peace of mind, and I would say number 3.
I feel like you just listed 17.
I would say 3 is courage, right? Having the courage to take on anything that comes. Because if you don't have courage, whatever power you wield is useless.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Whatever money you have isn't going to buy you the what courage brings. So those would be my tools. About you?
Confidence, comfort, and
confidence and comfort. Okay.
And me, laughter.
Confidence, comfort, and laughter. Those 3 things. Okay.
Because I'm pretty confident. For the most part, I'm pretty comfortable. And you and all 107 subscribers know that I'm funny.
Okay.
So, I've conquered them.
But wait a minute. The 3 tools don't necessarily mean have to be things that we have.
No, I know. But my personal things are those 3 things.
What's most important. Confidence, comfort, and laughter.
Because if you're confident, right, the same thing as having peace of mind, you're not ever scared to try, right? If you're comfortable in your confidence and you're comfortable in your ability to, do your thing day to day, then nothing gets in your way.
Okay.
And laughter's just fucking laughter.
I like it. I like it. And I say with that, I think we've done.
We've answered this
Margaret's-
question thoroughly.
I think we've done that question justice,
Mm.
right? Very and absolutely thoroughly. So, we're gonna move on to question number 2.
Yeah.
So, question number 2 was asked by Big Lou. Now, let me start by saying, Lou is one. He was the very first teacher I encountered in my 22 years working at for LA Unified. He was the first teacher I encountered, and where I said I can look up to this man.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I can see young men looking up to him and wanting to be like him, right? Prior to him, I'd met plenty of teachers, and I one thing I've always thought that teachers needed to have was first off leadership skills, right? There had to be some type of leadership skills,
Yeah.
and then but there also had to be a something about that person that would that a young person or a young boy would aspire to be like. And I
Right.
thought Luis was the first teacher I'd ever met where I said, you know what, young boys can look at this man and aspire to be like him. So before I wanted to say that before one of the best teachers I'd ever had the privilege of working with. But so the question that he asked a question about Don Lemon. So I don't know Don Lemon's exact quote, right? But apparently Nikki Haley, who's 51 and she's running for U.S. president.
Well, she announced her
candidacy.
Yeah.
She's announced her candidacy, and then a question was asked about women in their prime, or I don't know the exact.
Well, it was brought up. His concern was that she's not in her prime because women are in their primes in their 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Right.
Her being 51, him being indirectly saying that she's out of her prime. Now, the question was, what are our thoughts on his comments?
Right, but I wanted to delve into where the line of where Don Lemon, where age came into it, right? So apparently Nikki Haley made a comment about testing men of a certain age.
Well, testing anybody of a certain age, I think it was.
Right,
But I
testing
think she
anybody
was
up-
mainly saying because
of
we all know Biden's
right,
not in
Biden's-
his fucking right mind.
Biden's mental health, right?
Right.
His mental capacity. So all of this
Because he's 150 years old.
right. So all of this came from her comment about his age and potential mental status,
Yeah.
mental condition,
Capacity. Yeah.
capacity.
And also,
And then
it goes to show you that when their person
Mhm.
is attacked, right?
Right.
They just immediately go to like hair pulling and biting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But I say all this stuff to I'm trying to set something up, right? So again, it all spawned from her comments about competency tests given
Right.
to Biden, basically, and then it having to do with his age and mental condition, and then age and people age in prime and being in their prime, women
Right.
in their prime, men in their prime. And then Don Lemon made a comment about women being in their prime in their 20s, 30s, 40s, something like that. I don't want to ruin his quote, but that's somewhat what he said, right?
Mhm.
So the point I wanted to make. So what do I make? The question is, what do we think about him saying that? And I've always said this, right? Life happens. And then you have two types of people in life happening. You have the people who are actually taking action and doing and living their lives. And then you have the commentators who provide narrative about it, right? And then so what has happened here in this case, there is the Nikki Haley who is looking to be the player, and then there's another player as well. I would say Biden. Biden is considered in this case to be a player. So you've got two players, one commenting on the other, and then these people who commentate and provide the narrative on the sidelines, they get themselves into trouble or they get themselves into the spotlight by providing that narrative and commentating. I guess you can consider Stephen and I commentators and people who are providing a narrative or whatnot, right? So in that, I think Don Lemon kind of lost himself as he always
frequently does. Yeah.
Right. So on the one hand, he wants to present himself as this racially tolerant, this progressive, for the people type of person, and then here he is in this, in the heat, I guess, in the heat of this commentary on a woman, and then he kind of stumbles around commenting about the age and where women fall into their primes. And what does that sound like? That sounds sexist. You can say it's sexist. You can say there's a little bit of age discrimination there. There's a bit of, it's just discriminatory all the way, right? Why? Because all he's trying to do is, like Stephen said, they're trying to back their guy. Their guy is, Joe Biden, right? And it's not necessarily backing their guy, because CNN nowadays, they're caught, on record making fun of their guy.
Well, they're never going to say they were wrong.
But what they won't do is you'll very rarely find them supporting a conservative candidate, right? So that's what they will do, is they'll be on record all day bashing conservative politicians.
Right.
And then so you found him stumbling around, drawing a line, right? What is that? What kind of person does that make him? I think we've seen the type of person he is throughout this entire. It's real snaky, right? Because there's not a true line where he, that is drawn and saying, oh, this is right and this is wrong. It's whatever fits the flavor of the week, as Stephen always says, right?
But so, also too, though, with him and being on CNN, when they talk about equal rights and equal pay for women's sports and women's rights and this, and then they just spew this narrative of equal rights for women, and then they say something like this.
Right.
It should show you the level of stupidity.
Not only the level of stupidity, but the reality of where their minds truly are.
Right.
It's not authentic. We always talk about being authentic.
Right. It doesn't even matter that she's a woman.
Right.
It matters that she's conservative.
Right.
And it doesn't even matter.
Right.
Because look at Caitlyn Jenner when she ran for the governor of California.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought, oh shit, it's a trans.
How old was Caitlyn Jenner at the time? 60s.
I think she's 70 something.
No, but I'm saying at the time she was.
This is only 2 years ago, so 71.
I don't know.
But so it was a woman, trans, ex-athlete, celebrity. Everybody thought, oh shit, this person's gonna run on the Democratic card. And as soon as she did all her things, or her laid out what she wants to do, and then she said she's running as a Republican, instantly wrote off by them. Because it didn't fit the whole package. Most of it, but all the pieces didn't fit. Couldn't get her in that box because the dick got in the way.
Hey, you ever seen that video that Justin Timberlake did way back when?
Yeah. Digging in the box? Yeah. So, again, with I made a joke to Evan before we started recording that, like, Don Lemon speaking on anything about women is like me and him telling you guys what shampoo to use.
You guys need
it makes
to use
no sense
best
at all.
Conditioners.
Just because he has no idea about women in their primes. Because he doesn't fuck women. I mean, how can he say anything like that? It was like when I read that, I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
Right? And then you think, oh, and then you think that okay, he's backtracking and apologizing now because it didn't go over. If it went over, oh man, you best believe
I
they
think
still
we
be
need
saying.
I think we need to kind of revisit the idea that there are just the people who live and then there's the people who find their livelihoods made on the doing the commentary.
Reactive and proactive.
Right. And you know what? I hope that we're not those guys. I hope we're not just people providing a commentary, right? I hope we're living enough to influence, right? So, what have we done? Raised families, owned homes, just participated enough to say, hey, you know what? In this journey, we've discovered this. We've discovered this.
Yeah.
So.
But also, too, though, back to this Don Lemon thing for a second. He said she was past her prime. Kamala's older than her.
No shit.
New Supreme Court Justice, whatever, Katari P. Jackson, or whatever her name is, she's older than her. And let's not forget, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was 1,000 years old. And they're not, obviously, the Supreme Court justices aren't running for president, but it goes to your whole narrative of women past their prime, past their 40s. Those three bitches are way past their 40s. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
So Don Lemon's comment
was foolish.
Has been trashed by his own backings.
Yeah.
Right?
It was reckless.
Absolutely.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
And now that he's backtracking, he couldn't moonwalk any faster before he just right out the CNN door.
Probably should just get on a unicycle and start backpedaling.
Yep. I mean, it's you go back to the whole Cuomo thing, right? Chris Cuomo, the stupid brother on CNN that got fired for whatever the fuck he was doing, giving his brother tips. Him and Don Lemon were tight.
Yeah.
When they were on.
Yeah.
And now Chris Cuomo gets blacklisted, and Don Lemon is just like, I never really talked to him. I was like, bro, you're so full of shit, man. So full of shit.
They were.
I don't understand how anybody even listens to these guys anymore.
Right. There's no. Again, we always comment on being authentic, genuine with whatever it is you're doing, man. If you're looking to win a crowd over, or you're looking to gain influence, or give advice even, and hope that people are listening, or would even take advice from a person like you. Being genuine and authentic is first and foremost,
right.
And that guy is the furthest thing from it.
Right.
So, Don Lemon saying anything is a dumpster fire.
Yep. I mean, and also too, like I said, if it would have went over, if that was a well perceived statement, you best believe they'd be knocking her stupid right now on CNN about how she's old and out of the mix.
Right.
But since it didn't go over, and now there's liberal women's groups asking for his job, now he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend. Fuck you, you didn't mean to offend. What's he talking about?
He's a dumpster fire.
Yep.
So, I believe we did that question absolute justice.
Yeah.
Like us Dorman do. Thank you. Hey, guys, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the interaction. Super appreciative of it all. 107. Up from 106 last week. Whew.
By this time,
we'll
be out of our prime when we have 1,000.
Well, according to Don Lemon,
we're already out of our prime. Yeah. Damn it, Don Lemon.
God damn it.
How old is that little fucker?
No.
How do you think he is?
I don't even know. No clue.
Well, you got to look at CNN as a whole. I mean, they had CNN Plus or whatever they had, their streaming service that lasted about 14 seconds.
Not even a few
and that was done.
Month.
Yep, that was
3
done.
months.
And you have people getting shows on CNN that are lasting an episode. People who are trying to fill in for people who are just not equipped to be there. And it's just all, the whole go woke, go broke thing. I think it broke
everyone.
It hit Disney
everyone,
hard.
Yeah, it hit everyone
it's
pretty
CNN
hard. I think people are just fed up, and but again, you know what? It's crazy, right? Because man, it's funny, right? Because if you look at your social media feed, if you will find snippets with people spouting information that they've heard or that they believe,
Right.
and it's like the furthest thing from things that I believe and hear and have been programmed toward, right? And I'm not saying that everything that I've heard and the way I've been programmed is right, but I'm saying that everyone is basically in their own niched bubble,
Right.
right? And then we spoke on commonalities and finding a collective move towards a collective achievement, right? And if that's our goal, if that is the goal, then everyone in their own little bubbles it's an antithesis toward that goal.
Right.
So again, should we focus on all of this information that pulls us all in different directions? Not if our goal is going to be to move towards a collective achievement.
Right.
And I think that's truly everyone's goal, right? No matter what cause you're pushing for, your goal is for everyone to stand in agreement and stand towards or move towards that agreement, right? So we really should be pushing for more commonalities,
Right.
as opposed to these little niche ideas. A lot of these niche ideas are neat, right? Like whenever I learn about how much older civilization possibly is, I think that's neat, right? Like when you talk about,
You're saying neat?
yeah, it's a neat thing to hear, to know about. Like people were saying like how old the Sumerian civilization truly is, because at one point, anthropologists, archaeologists thought that the civilization was around 6,000 years old, right? And then more and more information is coming out and saying, hey, dude, the building of the pyramids could possibly be 10,000 years plus
Right.
further than we thought,
Yeah.
right? The construction of the Sphinx could potentially be thousands and thousands of years prior to where we thought and prior to where we placed civilization, right?
Right.
So I think it's neat having those little niche pieces of information, right,
Right.
to think about and to dwell on. But if we're looking towards a commonality, if we're looking towards pushing a common agenda and movement and collective achievements, then I don't know if those things, I don't know if we want to dwell on
Well,
those
like you said,
things.
it's a neat distraction, but it's
Sure.
it's not in line for the betterment of civilization.
I mean, I don't want to.
But I was just gonna change the subject for a second. I wanted to give a shout out to Herm Edwards. Remember Herm Edwards?
Herm Edwards.
Coach of the Jets, the
Okay.
Chiefs, played on the Eagles.
Yep.
Before the Super Bowl, they asked him. It was on I don't know what channel it was on. Some random NFL,
Probably whatever city he lives in or whatever. But it was a news anchor that said, that was not black, that said, I want to talk to you, Herm Edwards, about this first time having a two black quarterbacks start the Super Bowl. And he let her spill her rant, and then he said, you know what I want? They're not black quarterbacks. They're just quarterbacks, right? The fact that you start a phrase off by saying black, like you're already dividing people, right? It's not that they're the first two black quarterbacks. I mean, they were, but why is that a talking point? The flyover of the women pilots. Cool. Why is that a talking point for 7 minutes in the Super Bowl? When you point things out, it's great that they did it. It's great that it's happening. But why does it have to be an absolute stop in your tracks talking point? And if you want to move past it, and get past the racial things, then stop fucking talking about it, right? It's just like I couldn't believe that this person had the balls to ask Herm Edwards, who's black, about how it feels to him. And it's just like, why is it? He even said, why does it matter?
Okay.
Like, I want to get to the point where they're just quarterbacks playing football.
Why don't we address that for a little bit, right? At some point in history, there was a predominantly Caucasian white presence here in America, and there. I don't want to say if you look at the majority now, I believe it's still predominantly white Caucasian.
Okay.
So at some point, there was a newness. There was a brand. There was a new. It was a new happening. It was a new occurrence. It was a rare occurrence to see any type of colored person on television, right?
Yeah, in
So,
the 60s.
Yeah, right? 60s, maybe even earlier than that, right? So at some point, that was a talking point.
Yeah, back then.
At some point in time, that was a hot button
Sure.
that you wanted to you wanted to highlight, you wanted to cast the limelight all over it, right? Oh my goodness. Brown people are on, black people are on, there's whatever the difference may be, right? Outside of European American. So is it valid that was an idea? Sure. It's valid that was an idea back then, right? But today, see the point is, what's crazy is that it always happens to young people, right? Young people discover something and they always seem to act as if they were the first people to experience this something. Right? So as a young person, understanding the past, they look at, they want to cast, like the spotlight on these differences now, right? Because they watched the movies, Mississippi Burning, and they watched, all of this stuff that happened in the past. They heard these stories about racial discrimination, and they heard this and that, and they're so stuck in those timelines. They're so stuck in those plots that all of a sudden, fast forward to today, where it's not as prevalent, it's not as relevant as it was. They're still there. They're still there. Just having watched a documentary.
But let me ask you this question:
past.
Do you think that in '84 or whenever the Redskins won the Super Bowl with Doug Williams, do you think they were talking about this is the first black quarterback to start the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they were talking about it.
Do you think they were talking about it?
I'm pretty sure they were talking about it.
I don't think they were talking about it.
I'm pretty sure they were talking. I
don't think they were. And you want to know why I don't think they were?
I think we can find some news coverage of them talking about it back then.
We'll look for it now.
Why?
You want to know why I think that they were not back then?
Why?
Because back then it wasn't as prevalent as it is now, first of all. And second of all, he was in this year's Super Bowl as a special whatever, I don't know, holder of a flag or something, because I think there was no recognition of him being the first.
No, there was.
I think there was.
I remember.
There was coverage of it now.
No, I remember
like
back then
5
watching
years
that.
ago.
This is the thing, but I remember, and the reason why I can say that that this is going to be prevalent for forever and a day, is because until these hot points are no longer hot points, you know what I mean? Until race is like dies down absolutely, we're always going to be able to revisit these hot buttons.
Well, that's my whole thing is that you have multiple people in power, that are black saying stop talk. I don't want to talk about it. Older people, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
The only ones.
Well, these are the people who understand what it's going to take to move forward.
Right.
To truly move forward away from this. But it's always going to be a talking point until we see a majority minority population or not even say minority, a majority colored population, right? Outside of white Caucasian or white European Americans of white European descent, right? But it was, trust me, it was absolutely a thing that Doug Williams was black back then in the Super Bowl.
I'm not saying it wasn't a big thing. I'm just saying I don't think it was a 2-week long approach that this is the first time a black guy starting as a quarterback in the NFL. It wasn't a 2-week approach. It wasn't, and then a 4-hour conversation the day before the game, and then 30 minutes the day of the game, and then 15 days after the Super Bowl. It wasn't discussed.
Well, okay. So right now, it's like you said, it's a hot item. Race in general is a hot item, right?
Right.
It's a hot item because there are people in power that are looking to capitalize on these hot items, right? Just as they capitalized on the COVID, they capitalized on, you know, the kneeling of Kaepernick. They capitalized on all these, you know, all these little hot topics. So, of course, this is going to be. It's like a guy with no game, right? Like no game. When I say no game, no ability to speak to women.
Right.
Right. He's just going to repeat the same things over and over during a day.
Right.
And that's the equivalent of what's going to happen with these newscasters and media from now until it actually changes.
Right.
Right? It's just these guys repeating the same things over and over. Same things that have been said since the 70s when Solid Gold and Soul Train first hit the scene and became hot.
Right.
Oh, did you see the brothers, or whatever the case may be, right? I remember seeing the first Samoan on TV, and what a treat that was for me. The Wild Samoans on Saturday, it was a treat. It was, but again, it's these ideas that simple-minded people can't move away from, right? It's like a person who doesn't know how to talk to a woman on a date. They're just going to revisit the same subjects over and over and over until the girl leaves her.
Right.
Well,
let me ask this question. Based on this picture that I have in front of us, why is only one half of this individual being discussed?
Right. Because that dude is more white than black.
My whole point. So, it's just frustrating that you can cherry pick
Sure.
a topic
Sure.
and make it fit the narrative.
But again,
and it's disgusting and it pisses me
but
off.
again, it's because people can.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They can revisit those hot topics
At any time.
At any time.
At any time.
Right.
Like you and I could be talking about something.
But you know
and
what? That's the
somebody's
human. I want
it's
to say
racist.
that's the human experience, though. That's the human flaw. No matter how much richer we are as an American civilization, as American society, we're far more monetarily rich, right? We have more than was had in the 1930s. The average home has more. The average household has more amenities than they had back in the 1930s, and we are still finding things, pointing out things to complain about.
Right. Would you
That's
say
the
that?
human
Would you say
experience.
that America is more racist now than it was in the '60s?
Is it more racist? No.
Yeah.
It's just as racist. Is there racism? There's racism. There's always going to be racism whenever you've got a populace of people with differences, and people are willing to stand on the other side of the line of them differences.
Right.
It's always going to be racist. Right? Now, do we have to point it out and dwell on it? No, we don't have to dwell on it. Right? We can dwell on the commonalities, but that's boring.
Yeah.
I heard it said today that like those types of solutions that don't cause an uproar are boring. People don't want to hear that. People want to hear People want to hear and be a part of the chaos. They want to be a part of and that's always going to be, right? That chaotic, what is the word? The attraction to chaos.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the case. The attraction to chaos is always going to be the human preference, right? So until that human flaw is solved, then we're always going to experience this,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I just think it's ridiculous.
It is
that
ridiculous.
You have to draw
It's
attention
absolutely
to it.
ridiculous.
You just draw attention to it for the only reason just to be. Oh, I asked that question.
What's the job of media?
To fucking piss me off.
The job of media is to get the attention, right? We talked about that earlier. The ability to gain attention. Is it necessarily a good thing? No. That's the job of media. Otherwise, they're dead in the water.
Not always, but I'll tell you
How
what.
much? Hey, how much business have they lost out of? How much money have they lost out of since the administration of Trump
Since going
has
woke.
been over?
Since
No,
going woke.
just it's been over. How much more of a decline did networks like CNN experience? Why? Because they can't provide the clickbait. He's not providing them with the clickbait anymore.
Right.
Right? So again,
But you see what's happened when they're left to their own, make up the stories.
yeah,
They just get themselves in hot water. Sons of bitches.
forever and a day. Hey, and with that, you asked, we answered. Click, like, subscribe, the whole nine.
Deuces.